Close your eyes for a moment. It's December 23rd, 1987. You're 7 years old, lying on your stomach on the living room carpet, that thick, burnt orange shag your parents refused to replace. And you can feel the static electricity making the tiny hairs on your arms stand up. The carpet smells faintly of pine needles, and that particular dust that only exists in warm houses during cold winters. Your fingers are sticky with leftover candy cane residue as you turn another page of the Sears Wish Book. The glossy paper feels cool against your palms. You've folded down so many corners that the catalog looks like it's been through a war. Every folded page represents a dream, a possibility, a whispered prayer to Santa that maybe, just maybe, this will be the year. Outside your living room window, the neighbor's house blazes with those giant, hot-to-the-touch C9 bulbs, red, green, blue, orange, white, each one the size of your small fist, casting colored shadows across the snow that transform your ordinary suburban street into something that feels borderline magical. Not Instagram perfect, not Pinterest curated, just real magic, the kind you can't manufacture, the kind you can only stumble into when you're young enough to believe and old enough to remember. From the kitchen, you hear your mother wrapping presents. That distinctive sound, the whisper of paper unrolling, the rip of Scotch tape being pulled from the dispenser, the muffled thuds of boxes being arranged and rearranged. She thinks you can't hear her. You pretend you can't. This is the unspoken agreement of childhood at Christmas, the mutual preservation of wonder. Your father's somewhere in the garage, untangling last year's light strings, probably swearing under his breath, but smiling anyway because it's just what you do. It's what his father did. It's what everyone's father does 2 weeks before Christmas, wage war against a nest of lights that somehow tied themselves into impossible knots in the 11 months they spent in a cardboard box. And you? You're right here, in this moment, in this perfect bubble of anticipation where Christmas is close enough to taste but far enough away to savor. This is what Christmas felt like in the 1980s, and if you were there, if you lived it, you've been chasing this feeling ever since. Welcome to Timewashed Stories. I'm your guide through the decades we miss, the moments we've forgotten, and the feelings we're desperate to reclaim. Today, we're going back to perhaps the most powerful nostalgia trigger that exists for Generation X and elder millennials. Christmas in the 1980s America. But this isn't just a list of toys you wanted or TV specials you watched. Anyone can recite those facts. We're going deeper. We're reconstructing what it actually felt like to experience Christmas as a child in an analog decade, before the internet, before smartphones, before the world became what it is now. We're talking about a specific kind of magic that can't be recreated, only remembered, the kind that depended on scarcity, on anticipation, on the fact that Christmas movies only came on once a year, and if you missed them, you had to wait 365 days to see them again. The 1980s, Christmas wasn't better because things were objectively better. It was different because we were different, because the world was smaller, slower, and somehow, impossibly, that made the magic bigger. So let's walk through it together, and if Christmas in the 80s was part of your childhood, this video is going to feel less like a history lesson and more like going home for a little while. Let's rebuild it, moment by moment, detail by detail, until you can feel that carpet static again. Smell that particular blend of pine and cinnamon, hear that sound of paper tearing on Christmas morning. Let's go back. Late October, early November. That's when they arrived, the catalogs. Your mother would bring them in from the mailbox, these thick, heavy books that landed on the kitchen table with the weight of religious texts. And in a way, that's exactly what they were. The Sears Wish Book, the J.C. Penney Christmas catalog, the Toys R Us Big Book. These weren't just shopping guides. They were dream repositories. They were the sum total of what was possible. You'd take your wish book to your room or to your secret reading spot under the stairs or to that corner of the couch where the afternoon light came through just right. You'd flip through it slowly at first, reverently, taking in the full scope of everything that existed in the world of toys and games and electronics. The paper had that specific smell, ink and promise and possibility. The pages were thick, glossy, designed to survive countless fingers, countless hours of study. because that's what you did with these catalogs. You studied them like scholars preparing for the most important exam of their lives. Every toy was presented like fine art full-color spreads. Kids photographed in the midst of play, their faces showing the exact expression you wanted to have when you opened that gift on Christmas morning. The Barbie dream house, displayed like a piece of architecture. The Transformers, each one posed in both robot and vehicle mode to prove the transformation was real. The Nintendo Entertainment System, photographed with such reverence you'd think they were selling the Ark of the Covenant. You'd make your selections carefully. In some families, you got 3 wishes. In others, 5. Some kids used markers to circle their choices. Others, like me, used pencil, tentative, afraid to commit, wanting the flexibility to change my mind during the 6-week deliberation period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. You'd take the catalog to show your parents. What about this one? Your mother would glance over her reading glasses. We'll see. Those 2 words, we'll see, contained multitudes. They meant maybe, they meant possibly, they meant don't get your hopes up, but also don't lose hope entirely. Here's what made the catalog so powerful. They were finite. There were only a certain number of pages, a certain number of toys, a certain number of dreams to choose from. Today, a kid can scroll endlessly through Amazon, through YouTube unboxing videos, through infinite options until choice itself becomes meaningless. But in 1987, you had one wish book. You had its 300 pages. You had exactly what was in front of you. And so you learned to choose. You learned to prioritize. You learned to want deeply instead of wanting constantly. The catalog season taught you something adults struggle with forever after: how to hold a dream carefully, how to tend to hope without letting it consume you, how to wait. The weekend after Thanksgiving, your house transformed. Early Saturday morning, your father would descend from the attic or emerge from the basement carrying boxes. Not clean, organized storage containers. Those didn't exist yet for most families. These were actual cardboard boxes, taped and retaped over years, with XMAS decorations written in your mother's handwriting and faded marker. Some had been your grandparents' boxes before that. The boxes would land in the living room with hollow thuds, and that's when it would hit you. It's happening. Christmas is no longer theoretical. It's here. It's real. It's happening right now in your living room on this Saturday morning, while the house still smells like the pancakes you had for breakfast. Your mother would pull out decorations wrapped in newspaper, sometimes newspaper from 3, 4, 5 Christmases ago. You'd unwrap glass ornaments while she warned you for the 1,000th time to be careful. They break. They're from her childhood. Each one had a story. The angel with the broken wing, the silver ball that's lost half its reflective coating, the felt reindeer your sister made in 2nd grade. Then came the tree. Real families, and by real I mean working-class families, middle-class families, normal families, had artificial trees by the mid-'80s. The ones that came in 3 sections you had to puzzle together, each branch color-coded with a tiny strip of tape at its base. Green for bottom, red for middle, white for top. You'd spend an hour fluffing branches, pulling them out, shaping them, trying to make this obviously fake tree look somehow real. Your father would inevitably step back, squint and say, "That side looks thin." And you'd rotate the tree, redistribute branches, the whole family gathered around this engineering project disguised as holiday tradition. Some families still went to tree lots. Remember tree lots? Temporary winter forests that appeared in grocery store parking lots. The trees netted and bound, standing in rows like sleeping soldiers. The smell of fresh-cut pine so strong it made your eyes water. The tradition of walking through the rows, debating which tree was the one. Your father testing the trunk's straightness, your mother checking for bare patches, you just wanting the biggest one, always the biggest one, unaware that you lived in a house with 8-foot ceilings. But here's where Christmas in the 1980s really announced itself: the lights. Those big, hot, beautiful C9 bulbs that could probably violate several modern safety codes. Your father would spend an entire Sunday afternoon stringing them along the roof line, climbing the extension ladder he dragged out only twice a year, once for Christmas, once for cleaning gutters. The lights were heavy. The strands were thick. When you plugged them in, you could almost hear your house's electrical system groan under the strain, and they got hot. Touch one after it's been on for an hour and you'd burn your finger. But they cast light in a way modern LED bulbs never will. Warm, soft, colored light that didn't just illuminate but transformed. Inside, you'd string lights on the tree. The old-fashioned kind that formed one single circuit, so if one bulb went out, the whole strand died. Your father would spend 45 minutes testing each bulb individually with that little tool that came in the box. The one that always got lost by January tinsel came last. And here's where you learned if your family was patient or chaotic. Patient families put on tinsel strand by strand. Carefully draped chaotic families, my family, threw handfuls at the tree like we were seasoning a salad. It landed where it landed. The tree looked like it had survived a beautiful silver explosion. When everything was done, when every decoration was placed and every light was hung, your father would hit the lights in the living room and plug in the tree. That moment, that first illumination, was sacred. The tree would glow, and for just a second, everyone would be quiet. Your mother would stand with her hands clasped, your father would nod, satisfied, your siblings would stop bickering, and you'd all just look because you'd done it. You'd created Christmas. It was real now. It was in your house. It was yours. December weekends meant one thing, the mall, but not just any mall visit, not a quick in and out. We're talking about events, expeditions. Your mother would announce on Friday night that tomorrow we're going to the mall. And you'd go to bed with the kind of anticipation usually reserved for Disneyland. 1980s malls during Christmas were something modern retail can't replicate. The moment you walked through those heavy glass doors, you entered a climate-controlled winter wonderland that had nothing to do with the actual weather outside. The decorations were absurd in the best way. A 30-foot Christmas tree in the center court, covered in ornaments the size of beach balls. Garlands strung from every railing of every floor. Those weird mechanical elves in the window displays, their movements jerky and uncanny, but you watched them anyway because they were hypnotic. The smell. God, the smell. Cinnamon and commercial pine scent and food court pretzels and perfume samples, all mixing into this specific olfactory cocktail that existed only in malls. Only in December, Mariah Carey didn't exist yet, so you were getting wall-to-wall Bing Crosby, Brenda Lee, Johnny Mathis. Rocking around the Christmas tree, on repeat, Silver Bells. The Christmas song. These weren't just background music. They were the soundtrack of consumer desire, playing loud enough that you had to raise your voice to talk and the people, the crowds. Because this was before Amazon Prime, before online shopping, before you could buy anything you wanted while sitting on your couch in your pajamas. If you wanted to buy Christmas presents, you went to the mall. Everyone went to the mall. You'd park what felt like half a mile away. Your father would spend 20 minutes circling the lot looking for something closer. Your mother would say, "Just park here," and he'd ignore her until finally, frustrated, he'd take a spot that was exactly where your mother suggested 15 minutes earlier. Then you'd make your pilgrimage to the most important altar in the mall, KB Toys, or Toys R Us if you were lucky enough to have one in your town, or Children's Palace, or Lionel Playworld. The toy store at Christmas was sensory overload in the best possible way. Aisles packed so tight you had to turn sideways. Shelves stocked floor to ceiling. Every hot toy of the season displayed at the end caps. Transformers, G.I. Joes, Cabbage Patch Kids, My Little Ponies, He-Man figures, Rainbow Bright dolls, Popples, Pound puppies. The video game section, usually just one aisle, maybe two, felt like the future. Nintendo was the new god. Every kid had the same debate. Which games would you get? Super Mario Bros. Came with the system, so that was guaranteed. But after that, The Legend of Zelda, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Metroid. You could only afford one, maybe two if you were extremely lucky. Your parents would let you walk through the toy aisles while they did their shopping. "Stay where we can see you." You'd nod, barely listening. Already walking toward the action figures, you'd pick up toys you knew you'd never get. You'd open the boxes, carefully, not breaking the tape, and look inside at the figure in its plastic prison. You'd read the back panel describing the character's powers, the accessories included, the other figures in the collection. Other kids would be doing the same thing. You'd make eye contact, maybe nod, maybe compare notes on which Transformer was the coolest. These were temporary friendships formed in aisles, lasting exactly as long as your parents shopped. The overhead speakers would call out, Attention Toys R Us shoppers. Some promotion, some sale. You weren't listening. You were holding a Voltron lion, imagining what it would be like to combine all five on Christmas morning. And then there was Santa. The mall Santa's setup was impossible to miss. Usually in the center court, surrounded by fake snow and oversized candy canes in a line that snaked around multiple stores. By the mid-'80s, you were maybe too old for Santa, but too young to fully admit it, so you'd go through the motions, wait in line, sit on his lap, which always felt more awkward than magical. He'd ask what you wanted for Christmas and you'd rattle off your list, knowing somehow that this wasn't really Santa, but also not wanting to completely give up the game. Your mother would pay for the photo package. You'd get your picture taken, your smile forced, Santa's beard slightly crooked, the flash too bright. That photo would show up weeks later in a cardboard frame with Christmas 1987 embossed in gold letters. You'd keep it forever. Entertainment in December meant something completely different in the 1980s. You couldn't stream anything. You couldn't watch anything on demand. Television controlled you. You controlled nothing. Christmas specials came on once, one time, one night, and if you missed it, you missed it. There was no rewind, no recording, unless your family owned a VCR, and even then you had to remember to set it up, press the right buttons, hope you had a blank tape or something you were willing to record over. This scarcity made everything sacred. Your mother would check TV Guide, that thin magazine that came in the mail or that you'd buy at the grocery store checkout, and she'd circle the Christmas specials in pen. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Tuesday, 8 p.m. CBS. It would go on the family calendar. Dinner would be planned around it. Tuesday night would arrive and you'd gather the whole family in the living room, all the lights off except for the tree. Your mother would make hot chocolate, the real kind, made with milk on the stove, not the instant packet kind, though those were acceptable too. You'd sit on the floor, too close to the TV by adult standards, but they'd let it slide because it was a special occasion. Your siblings would fight over the best spot. Someone would inevitably sit directly in someone else's line of sight. "Move! I can't see!" Then it would start. Rudolph, with its stop-motion animation that looked charming and slightly creepy at the same time, Hermie the elf wanting to be a dentist, the abominable snow monster, the island of misfit toys making you feel feelings you didn't have words for yet, a Charlie Brown Christmas with Vince Guaraldi's piano jazz that sounded like winter feels, Charlie Brown's pathetic little tree, Linus's speech about the true meaning of Christmas that somehow never felt preachy when you were 8 years old, Frosty the Snowman. Santa Claus is coming to town. The Year Without a Santa Claus, with the Heat Miser and Snow Miser, their songs permanently lodged in your brain. These weren't just shows, they were cultural touchstones. The next day at school, everyone would talk about them. Did you watch Rudolph last night? Of course you did. Everyone did. Because what else were you going to do? And then there were the movies. Not Christmas movies necessarily, but movies you watched during Christmas because they came on HBO or Showtime or Cinemax during your free trial month. But the real Christmas movies, those were theater events. 1983 gave us A Christmas Story. Most kids didn't see it in theaters. It became a cable classic, played endlessly, until Ralphie's desire for a Red Ryder BB gun became as much a part of Christmas as Santa himself. 1985, Santa Claus the Movie with Dudley Moore. It wasn't particularly good, but it was big and magical, and you saw it at the cinema with your cousins, and that made it important. 1988, Scrooged with Bill Murray. Your parents took you even though it was PG-13, and you laughed at jokes you didn't fully understand, but Bill Murray was funny, so you laughed anyway. Here's what made 80s Christmas entertainment powerful. You had to be present for it. You couldn't pause it. You couldn't re-watch it immediately. You watched it once, together, as a family, and then you held the memory of it in your head until next year. This created a different relationship with entertainment. You valued it more. You remembered it better. You weren't consuming content. You were collecting experiences. Christmas in the 1980s wasn't just something that happened in your house. It happened everywhere. It was communal in a way that's hard to explain to people who grew up after school. In December transformed completely. Your classroom would be decorated, paper snowflakes cut by students hanging from the ceiling, a construction paper Santa on the door, a small tree on your teacher's desk with student-made ornaments. Every Friday in December meant some kind of event. The holiday concert where the whole school gathered in the gym-turned-auditorium. You'd stand on risers, wearing whatever your parents designated as your nice outfit, singing jingle bells, and deck the halls. While parents held up camcorders the size of suitcases, you'd exchange gifts with classmates. Not elaborate gifts. The rule was always nothing more than $5. You'd draw names from a hat the week after Thanksgiving. For 2 weeks, you'd agonize over what to buy for Ashley or Brandon or whoever you picked. You'd end up buying something generic from the mall, a small stuffed animal, a holiday mug, a box of chocolate. You'd wrap it in your bedroom using too much tape, the corners coming out lumpy. Your mother would offer to help. You'd refuse out of pride, wanting to do it yourself. Church events, for those who went, dominated December. The Christmas pageant where children reenacted the Nativity. Someone's baby brother would play Jesus, screaming in the manger until his mother had to remove him. The kid playing an angel would wave at their parents from the stage. The wise men would forget their lines. It was chaos. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. Candle lighting services on Christmas Eve, everyone holding thin white candles in paper holders to catch the wax. The sanctuary would be dark except for the tree and those dozens of small flames. You'd sing Silent Night. Your mother would cry quietly next to you. You'd wonder why adults always cried during Silent Night. Your neighborhood came alive and December houses competed, not in the organized, professional way they do now with hired decorating companies. This was amateur hour in the best way. Your neighbor across the street would have a blow-up Santa on the roof. The house next door would line their driveway with candy canes. The family at the corner would have so many lights that you could see the glow from 2 blocks away. You'd go on drives specifically to look at Christmas lights. Your father would drive slowly through neighborhoods you'd never been to, everyone in the car pointing out the best displays, rating houses, debating which decorations were too much. Block parties happened, not organized through Facebook or Nextdoor. Those didn't exist. Someone would just decide to have one. Your mother would get a phone call. Janet's having a Christmas party Saturday. We're going. You'd arrive at a neighbor's house that you'd maybe been in once or twice before the adults would gather in the kitchen, drinking eggnog with rum. The kids would be sent to the basement or the family room to play. The host would have set out a VHS tape, a Christmas Story, or Gremlins, or maybe just Saturday morning cartoons recorded off TV. You'd all watch for a while, but mostly you'd talk. You'd compare notes on what you hoped to get for Christmas. You'd trade intelligence on what you'd accidentally seen in your parents' closet. Someone's dad would dress up as Santa. Everyone would pretend to be fooled. He'd hand out small gifts, candy canes, chocolate coins, small toys from the dollar store. You'd go home late, past your bedtime, the adults happy drunk, the kids sugar high, and you'd fall asleep in the car on the drive home even though you only lived 3 houses down. Christmas Eve. If Christmas Day was the explosion, Christmas Eve was the held breath. Everything moved differently on Christmas Eve, slower, softer, like the whole world was tiptoeing. Morning came with a strange energy. School was done. Shopping was done. Everything that could be done was done. What remained was waiting. Your mother would be in the kitchen, preparing for tomorrow. The turkey would already be thawing in the sink. Pies would be cooling on the counter, pumpkin, apple, pecan. The house would smell like cinnamon and butter and sugar. You'd try to help and she'd shoo you away. You'll just be underfoot. So you'd wander. You'd turn on the TV, but nothing good was on. You'd look at your toys, but none of them interested you. Everything felt like a placeholder for what was coming. Afternoon was when relatives would start arriving. Your grandparents, moving slowly, carrying covered dishes and gift bags. Your mother would fuss over them. Your father would help with coats. You'd be required to give hugs, to say hello properly, to demonstrate good manners. Your aunts and uncles and cousins. The house would fill with voices, with laughter, with the particular chaos that comes from too many people in too small a space. Your cousins would become your temporary best friends. Didn't matter if you didn't like them the rest of the year. On Christmas Eve, you were united in anticipation. You'd retreat to your room or the basement. You'd whisper about Santa. You'd wonder if maybe this year you'd stay awake and catch him. Dinner was early, 5 or 6 p.m., because the real event came later. You'd crowd around the dining room table, possibly extended with card tables, everyone squeezed in, knees bumping, elbows touching. Your mother would have put out the good dishes, the ones that only came out 3 times a year. The food was familiar, ham or sometimes prime rib if your family was fancy. Mashed potatoes, green bean casserole with those French's fried onions on top, rolls from a tube, cranberry sauce that kept the shape of the can it came in. The adults would drink wine. The kids would have Martinelli's sparkling cider and plastic champagne flutes. Pretending we were sophisticated dinner felt endless. You'd eat quickly and then have to sit there while the adults talked and talked and talked. Your grandmother would tell the same stories from when your father was a kid. Your uncle would make the same jokes. You'd count the minutes, calculating how much longer until presents. Evening was magic hour. The dishes would be cleared, the kitchen would be crowded with women doing cleanup while men retreated to the living room. You'd help carry plates, hoping it would make time move faster. It wouldn't. Then, finally, your father would announce, "Should we do presents?" Everyone would gather in the living room. The tree would be lit. The overhead lights would be off. The room would glow with colored light and anticipation. Every family had their system. Some families did a free-for-all chaos, everyone tearing into gifts at once. Others were more structured. In my family, we went one at a time, youngest to oldest. Each person would open one gift while everyone watched. You'd have to say thank you, had to show appreciation, even if you got socks, had to be gracious. This made it last longer, made it feel bigger. Each gift became a performance, an event. You'd open gifts from relatives, usually clothes, usually practical things. You'd smile and say thank you, and inside you'd be thinking, this isn't the real stuff. The real stuff comes tomorrow. Sometimes there'd be one big gift on Christmas Eve, something to tide you over. One year it was a speak and spell. Another year, a board game the whole family could play right then. Then came the hardest part, going to bed. Your parents would insist. Santa can't come until you're asleep. You'd argue, I'm not tired. You were lying, you were exhausted, but you were also so wired with anticipation that tired didn't matter. You'd go to your room, you'd lie in bed, you'd stare at the ceiling and listen to the adults still talking downstairs. You'd hear wrapping paper, you'd hear your father's footsteps, you'd hear the quiet sound of gifts being arranged. You'd try to stay awake, you'd fail. And somewhere in the dark hours of Christmas Eve, while you slept, your parents became Santa. They assembled bikes and train sets. They arranged gifts under the tree. They filled stockings with care, putting the candy in the toe, the small toys in the middle, the orange in the top. They stepped back and looked at what they'd created. They poured themselves one last drink. They went to bed at 2 a.m., knowing you'd be up at 6. This was love. This was Christmas. This was the magic that you'd understand only decades later when you became the one staying up late, wrapping presents, creating wonder for the next generation. But tonight, you were still the child. You were still the believer. You were still dreaming about tomorrow. Christmas morning, you woke before your alarm, before the sun, before any rational person should be awake. Your eyes opened in the dark, and you knew it's Christmas. Every kid had that one moment where time stopped, the exact second you realized Santa really came. You'd lie there for a moment, every nerve ending alive. Your room would be dark, but you could sense that something in the house had changed. The air felt different. The energy was different. You'd climb out of bed, not bothering with slippers. The house would be cold. Your parents turned down the heat at night to save money, but you wouldn't care. You'd creep down the hallway. You'd peek into your siblings' rooms. If they were still asleep, you'd wake them. A gentle shake. It's Christmas. They'd sit up immediately, no grogginess, instantly alert. The pact was universal. You'd wake up together, but you wouldn't go downstairs until it was at least a reasonable hour. 6 a.m. was the agreed-upon time, negotiated weeks ago. You'd sit in the hallway, all of you, watching the clock on the wall, watching the minutes tick by with agonizing slowness. 5:47 a.m., 5:51 a.m., 5:58 a.m. Close enough. You'd creep down the stairs. The living room would be dark except for the tree lights, which your father had left on overnight. And there it would be. Christmas morning in its full glory. The space under the tree that was empty yesterday was now full, overflowing. Presents stacked, arranged, gleaming with bows and ribbons. The stockings that hung limp yesterday now bulged, heavy with stuff. You'd just stand there for a second, all of you, taking it in. Then someone, usually the youngest, would break the spell. "Can we open them?" Your mother would appear, camera in hand, still in her robe, hair messy, eyes tired but smiling. Wait for your father. He'd come down a moment later, coffee already in hand. He'd make you wait just a bit longer. "Let me get the camera ready." "Okay, go ahead." Chaos. Beautiful, perfect chaos. Paper flying. Boxes opening, everyone talking at once. "Look what I got." "Oh my God, I can't believe it. How did Santa know?" You'd find the thing you wanted most, the toy you'd circled in the wish book, the thing you'd talked about for weeks. And there it was, real, in your hands, yours. Maybe it was a Nintendo Entertainment System, still in its box, the weight of it substantial and perfect. Maybe it was a Barbie dream house, that pink plastic palace you'd only ever seen in catalogs, now assembled and waiting. Maybe it was a Transformers toy, Optimus Prime or Megatron or Starscream, the box pristine, the figure visible through the plastic window. Maybe it was a Teddy Ruxpin, that animatronic bear that would tell you stories when you put a cassette in his back. Maybe it was roller skates. Maybe it was a BMX bike. Maybe it was an Etch-a-Sketch or a Light Bright or a big wheel. The iconic toys of 80s Christmases deserve their moment. The He-Man Castle Grayskull, that green plastic fortress that was somehow both a castle and a skull. And absolutely nobody questioned this design choice. Cabbage Patch Kids with their unique faces and birth certificates, each one a small person you are now responsible for. My Little Ponies with their brushable manes and cutie marks, each one collecting in your room until you had a full plastic stable. G.I. Joe figures with accessories so small they'd be lost by the afternoon. But in this moment, they were complete, perfect, exactly as pictured the Fisher-Price tape recorder that was somehow exclusively for recording yourself singing Christmas carols badly. Spirograph for making geometric patterns that looked like art. Simon for testing your memory with increasingly difficult patterns of lights and sounds. Hungry Hippos for pure, chaotic gameplay that was basically just hitting levers as fast as possible. Your parents would watch. They'd take pictures. They'd video record. Your mother would say, "Slow down," even though she knew you wouldn't. Your father would help with complicated packaging. He'd retrieve batteries. He'd assemble things that needed assembling, reading instructions while you bounced impatiently next to him. Gradually, the frenzy would calm. You'd be surrounded by opened gifts, by torn wrapping paper, by boxes and plastic packaging. You'd sit in the middle of it all, holding your favorite gift, and you'd feel full, complete, like every hope you'd held for the last 6 weeks had been validated. Then came the best part, playing. You'd retreat to your room with your new toys. Your siblings would do the same. The house would get quiet except for the sounds of experimentation, boxes opening, plastic clicking into place, electronic beeps and boops as you figured out how things worked. If you got a Nintendo, your father would help hook it up to the TV. You'd spend 20 minutes figuring out which channel to set it to, turning the dial until the static resolved into that beautiful black screen with Nintendo in white letters you'd put in Super Mario Brothers. You'd hear that iconic music. You'd press start, and for the next hour you'd be gone, lost in the Mushroom Kingdom, figuring out that you could run by holding B, that you could find warp zones in the 4th level, that those green pipes sometimes led to underground coin rooms. Eventually, your mother would call everyone for breakfast. Christmas breakfast was always a production cinnamon rolls from a tube, the icing packet warmed in hot water, scrambled eggs, bacon, orange juice, the good breakfast, the special breakfast. You'd eat quickly, wanting to get back to your toys. Your mother would make you stay at the table. We eat together on Christmas. So you'd sit. You'd listen to your father tell the same Christmas story he told every year. Your grandmother would talk about Christmases from her childhood, impossibly long ago, when she got an orange and a doll made of corn husks and was grateful. You'd try to understand how that was Christmas, how getting an orange could be exciting. You couldn't fathom it. You were surrounded by plastic and electronics in abundance. Then the doorbell would ring. More relatives, more gifts, more people crowding into your house that already felt too small. Your aunt would bring her famous Jell-O salad, the one with Cool Whip and marshmallows and canned fruit cocktails suspended in lime Jell-O. Your uncle would bring beer. Your cousins would bring their new toys and you'd compare hauls. What did you get? Nintendo, you? Transformers and a bike. Cool. Afternoon was different from morning. The initial rush was over. You'd played with your main toys. You'd explored. Now you settled into them. You'd build the Lego set. You'd dress the new Barbie. You'd read the instruction booklet for your new game, studying the enemies, learning their patterns. The TV would be on. A Christmas marathon of something. A Christmas Story playing on repeat on TBS, starting its tradition of the 24-hour run. You'd watch it in pieces, walking by, catching bits of it between playing. Adults would be in the kitchen preparing dinner. Christmas dinner was even bigger than Christmas Eve dinner: turkey, ham, side dishes brought by relatives, desserts covering every surface. You'd sneak into the kitchen, trying to steal cookies or fudge. Your mother would swat your hand away. Dinner's in an hour. Christmas dinner was formal chaos. The table extended to its maximum length, every chair in the house pulled up, some people sitting on folding chairs, the kids' table in the corner for the youngest cousins. Your mother would dim the lights. Your father would say grace, or your grandfather, whoever was designated as the family spiritual leader. Everyone would hold hands. You'd bow your head and peek through your eyelashes at your cousins who were also peeking. Then, food. Turkey carved at the table. Dark meat versus white meat debates, gravy boats passed carefully, mashed potatoes going around. Someone would drop a roll. Someone always dropped a roll. You'd eat too much because that's what you did at Christmas. You'd go back for seconds, even though you weren't really hungry. You'd have dessert even though you felt like you might burst. After dinner, the house would enter a strange state. The adults would be food drunk, lounging in the living room, half watching TV. The kids would be playing with toys, but slower now, the initial excitement faded into contentment. This was the warm down, the denouement. Someone would put on a Christmas album, Nat King Cole or Bing Crosby, the same albums that had been playing all season. But now, on Christmas night, they sounded different. Softer, sadder almost. Because you knew this was it. This was the peak. Tomorrow would be different. You'd play with your new toys until your eyes got heavy. You'd fall asleep on the couch, surrounded by wrapping paper, clutching whatever gift meant the most to you. Your father would carry you to bed. You'd half wake, enough to get under the covers, not enough to really be conscious. And Christmas would be over. So why does it hurt so much to remember? Why does Christmas in the 1980s, and specifically Christmas in childhood in the 1980s, carry such devastating nostalgia? It's not just about the toys. Adults know this. If you wanted those toys now, you could buy them. Vintage toys are all over eBay. Reproduction versions exist. You could recreate the material conditions of 1980s Christmas in a weekend. But you can't recreate the feeling. Because the feeling wasn't about the stuff. It was about the anticipation. In the 1980s, kids lived in a state of sustained anticipation that modern children can't access. We waited for things. We waited for Christmas specials to air. We waited for catalogs to arrive. We waited for Christmas morning. We waited for months, weeks, days, hours. And in that waiting, something happened. The wanting became as important as the getting. The dream became as valuable as the reality. We lived in scarcity of information and abundance of imagination. We didn't know everything about every toy. We couldn't watch unboxing videos. We couldn't read reviews. We saw a toy in a catalog or a commercial, and we imagined what it would be like to own it. Our imaginations did the work that marketing and content creators do now, and our imaginations were powerful. They made everything bigger, better, more magical than reality could ever deliver. But that was okay, because the magic wasn't in the toy. The magic was in the dreaming. Christmas in the 1980s was analog in every sense. The lights were physical, hot, real. The catalogs were paper you could touch. The TV specials existed in real time. The presents were wrapped by hand. Everything required physical presence, required effort, required participation. Your parents didn't order gifts from Amazon. They went to stores. They fought crowds. They carried heavy bags. They hid presents in closets. They wrapped them late at night. The effort meant something. Not consciously, you didn't think about it as a kid, but you felt it. You felt the weight of the work that went into creating Christmas magic, and it was communal. Everyone watched the same TV shows. Everyone shopped at the same malls. Everyone sang the same songs. Everyone had similar experiences because there were fewer options, fewer choices, fewer ways to individualize. This created shared culture, shared memory. You could meet a stranger your age and say, "Remember Rudolph?" and they'd know exactly what you meant. Not just know about it, remember it. The same way you did. Modern Christmas is fragmented, personalized, customized. Everyone has their own playlist, their own movie preferences, their own traditions. Nothing is universal anymore. What we're nostalgic for isn't really the 1980s. It's childhood itself. It's the last generation of childhood that existed before the internet, before smartphones, before constant connectivity. It's the feeling of being fully present in a moment, because there was nowhere else to be, nothing else demanding your attention. It's the feeling of believing, really believing, in magic, in Santa, in the possibility that wishes come true. It's the feeling of being small and safe and cared for, of having parents who created wonder for you, of living in a house where Christmas morning meant everything would be okay. We can't go back. Obviously. The 1980s are gone. That version of childhood is gone. The world has changed and it will never be that way again. But the memories remain, and they're not useless. They're not just empty nostalgia. They remind us what mattered. They remind us what made us happy. They remind us that joy doesn't require perfection, that magic doesn't require expense, that the best Christmases weren't necessarily the biggest or fanciest. They were the ones where we were together, where we were present, where we were paying attention. It's late now. You're not 7 anymore. You're an adult. Maybe you have kids of your own. Maybe you're creating Christmas magic for them, staying up late wrapping presents, hiding gifts in closets, being Santa for the next generation. Or maybe you're alone in your apartment, scrolling through videos of the 1980s, trying to recapture something you can't quite name. Either way, you remember the carpet static, the catalog pages, the colored lights, the Christmas Eve anticipation, the morning chaos, the feeling of holding a gift you dreamed about for weeks and realizing it was really yours. You remember what Christmas felt like when you were small. And here's the thing about memories. They're not gone. They're not lost. They're right there, stored somewhere deep, activated by a smell or a song or a specific angle of winter light through a window. They're in the sound of wrapping paper, tearing. They're in the first notes of silver bells. They're in the sight of colored lights on a cold night. They're in you. They're part of you. They shaped you. The 1980s. Christmas wasn't perfect. Your family wasn't perfect. Nothing was perfect, but it was real. It was yours. It was magic. In the way only childhood can be magic, imperfect and overwhelming and absolutely unforgettable. So tonight, wherever you are, whatever year this is, take a moment. Close your eyes, feel that carpet static, smell that pine and cinnamon, hear that paper tearing. You're 7 years old. It's Christmas morning. Everything is possible. You're still there. You'll always be there. Some part of you will always be there, in that living room, in that moment, in that feeling. And that's not sadness. That's not loss. That's love. That's the gift that keeps giving, year after year, decade after decade. That's Christmas in the 1980s. And it's still yours. And if this brought you back, even for a moment, you're exactly who this channel is for. Thank you for watching Timewashed Stories. Until next time, keep remembering.